Again, a solicitor, this time London and Manchester, I think. So, again, this is a kind of UK-wide project, UK-wide group of people. They simply don't look for money in their own areas. Okay, so it shows you that if you even look at a local history project, it does actually show you how connected your area is to the outside. And you think local history, it's only just what happened in my area, and it's going to be boring, it's going to be whatever, it's going to be this, but it isn't. It's a case of it'll show you how, in fact, your own area is actually totally, written into the history of your own country and into the history of the British Isles. Local projects like that are really important because they do show us that element. They do show kind of people, if you like. They do the primary research and they show everybody how, if you like, the local area can actually often undermine what people perceive at a national level. So local history is often at the vanguard of actually changing national history and national narratives and how we understand things. And that, I think, is a great value of it. And this is another document on, again, here in the archives. And it's essentially, I thought it was going to be a relatively uncontentious document, and it was essentially, it talks about the development of a tramway in Londonderry, a tram system and a kind of spur line, or a line connecting Armagh. So one of the things that they have to do is they have to put forward this prospectus and then go to Parliament and get a bill to essentially allow them to buy the land to create the tram system and to create spur lines and whatever the other line that they're doing. So they have to go to Parliament. And so I thought, this is interesting, I can just track this down very quickly. Again, on the kind of online resources that we have in the OU, which is we have parliamentary archives, and we have Hansard, and we have a few things, which is the political debates. And so one of the things that I went and I looked for, this is the Great Northern Railway Bill, and it's introduced in the House of Lords, and it allows, effectively, the Great Northern Railway to buy the land and to develop their rail line and their tram system. Again, you think commercial, relatively uncontentious, and so it's just a second reading. It seems relatively normal, and I was just kind of scanning it, and then Mr. McVeigh from South Down says, well, he wants the bill postponed because it was essentially rumoured that the company intended to flout the decision of the House. They were told to hold a meeting. They would hold a meeting tomorrow for the purposes of considering the matter. It was obvious that the House ought to know the decision of the company before it proceeded with the consideration of this bill. And then William Redmond seconded it, and I thought, does he mean that the Great Northern Railway are going to flout the will of the Parliament? I mean, what's all this about? So, again, Carson basically stands up and said, this is a bit ridiculous. There's no slightest foundation for the suggestion that the Great Northern Railway would flout the will of the Parliament. And that what happened was that there was a second reading of another bill at which certain obligations were attached to the company, and those obligations may be illegal or unfair on the company. And again, I'm sorry, what's going on? So, and that they really should proceed with the bill because, well, there's no reason to hold it up. Again, Mr. Wolfe, East Belfast. I'm not sure if it's one of the actual Wolves, but the again, second reading, we basically said it's very important for Northern Ireland and very important for Londonderry, if you like, to get this. So it doesn't actually pass. So I was just intrigued. Wait a minute, what's behind effectively all of this? And so I went looking for the other bill. And this is the way it kind of happens in history. So I was trying to look around and find what's going on. And I think that's one of the things that you don't really know sometimes where local history is going to lead you, and what you're actually going to find out. And again, one of the great things is sort of distractions, because as I was looking through, looking for the other bill, Haldane was answering loads of questions, and of course he was the Secretary of State for War, and I'm a military historian, and I was sort of saying, don't get distracted, stay focused, stay on the Great Northern Railway, don't get distracted with Haldane. But I can now tell you that the cost of a Grenadier Guardsman, in 1906 was £29, so it's kind of, I didn't quite stay on track, but again, the great to resume. But the other bill was in fact the corporate takeover of Midland Railways. So Great Northern were buying Midland. And again, you think, well, relatively uncontentious, why should it be a problem? But what it was used for essentially was, I suppose, if you like, it was political grandstanding by Redmond and the two Redmonds and some other individuals, in terms of they essentially wanted to, if you like, from the point of view of the Midland Railway, either frustrate the takeover or ensure that the takeover happened in a particular way. And I found that kind of relatively interesting that you eventually kind of come across these kind of disputes, and I'm not a political historian, so I'm not really interested in the squabbling of politicians. But the good thing about it is that they sometimes give you material that is then interesting for your other project, because they start throwing stuff across the floor at each other, okay, and reaching for facts and statistics and whatever. So one of the things that and basically Lloyd George weighs in on behalf of his nationalist friends. Not sure he had too many after 1921, but still, in 1906 it was different. So he basically comes in, but what's interesting is that he goes, of the 21,130 paid-in salaries at the Dublin terminus, exclusive of weekly wages, whatever, only 720 paid Catholics, and then of the 7,862 paid-in salaries at the Belfast terminus, X amount paid Catholics. But my perspective, I suppose, again, coming to this completely new and thinking the Great Northern Railway must have been administratively based in Belfast. The fact that at least 3 times the amount of salaries are paid out in Dublin, I found sort of interesting, and then that would be an area that you would go chase up and say, why is it like that? Why is it there? Who's there? Okay? So I found that, if you like, particularly interesting. So as I said, the debates, the problem with political debates like that is that, they can switch you off, okay? Because, it's kind of rhetoric we're all relatively used to, but they do contain in them nuggets of information which you can then, if you like, follow up. But I wanted to, and it goes on, and eventually, I didn't, I suppose, have time or yesterday to find the resolution of it, but maybe you can all follow that up. So again, it's all about staff, okay, and who gets what jobs and so on, and again, it's the same old sort of rhetoric. But if you're looking at projects and you're thinking, one of the things that I remember one year, we had a student come to me and they were in first year, and they were saying, well, I want to do a PhD in history. And I said, well, it's great, you're in first year, you might want to finish your BA first before you start thinking about the PhD. I said, but I'm afraid every topic will be done. And I can hardly assure you, that every topic will not be done, and not every topic will ever be done. And the great thing about that is it offers scope for everybody to do their own research and to come to places like PRONI and to look at all the files that they have here, and if you like, exercise your own being a historical detective, and to go through the files and to find out things, even if it's only for yourself and your own self-interest. It doesn't have to be for any kind of master's program. And one of the things that you can do, I was trying to think of, what can you do in terms of topics, or what kind of topics could people do? And you can do weather and transportation. on a night like tonight is probably a little bit appropriate, but you know, there's a book out at the moment called Ireland's Arctic Siege, 1947 or whatever, which was, you know, there was like 50-foot snowdrifts around the country and all this, but you know, you can look at the impact of weather on your own locality and weather on your transport systems in your locality. So that's, as you can see, a nice flood. Again, those photographs are in the railway files, and I think Stephen has some more to show people. And the other thing that you can do is that there's always an interest in architectural history in an area, and this is the station in Strabane. So you can look at the architectural history of railway stations, okay, in Northern Ireland. So all of those things are equally, if you like, important and interesting to go through. And the great thing is that the pictures are there and the plans are there, and you can, and the records of the construction will be there and why things were chosen. And I don't know if some of you've, there's a sort of, I think in almost every county, there's this kind of same kind of, I won't say urban legends, could be kind of rural legend or urban legend, whatever way you put it, but there's always this sort of really strange police station in every county. I'm thinking of one in Carsavine, I don't know if you've been there, and it looks like a little Gothic castle. And the whole story is that they mixed up the plans in London, and the one that should have been built in India was built in Carsavine, and obviously somewhere in India got a really nice suburban police station that was meant for here. So you get all of these lovely little things that go on, but architectural history can be interesting in that sense. Like, why is it built and why does it look that way? Obviously there's a certain functionality to these buildings. But as I said, I started out looking at this from the perspective, I suppose, of I've been on the MA program in local and regional history, and been essentially looking at or taking charge of kind of forums on crime and on industrialisation. And I had a hunch last year when we were doing it that people would be really interested in railways. And the forums can sometimes be quiet, or not quite, depending on how people post and what people are interested in. But the forum on the railways kind of like just took off, right? Because people were just, whatever, people have this kind of abiding interest in steam engines. And I discover now after this sort of research that, and it's all Janice's fault, I'm developing an abiding interest in steam engines and in the railways and in kind of furthering doing this research, and I entirely abandon my kind of imperial kind of history in favour of this, But the one thing that will definitely probably happen this year is I want one for Christmas, because having done so much with it over the last few weeks, I definitely think some practical experience might be useful in terms of understanding them. At least that's what I'm going to say when I'm looking for the Thai train set. So thank you for your attention over the last while. I think yourself, Stephen, or Janice?
Thanks.